Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Thursday edition of our webinar. There's not very many of us on the webinar today, so what I've done, I've gone ahead and unmuted everybody from my end. What that means is if you guys have questions while this progresses, please do feel free to unmute yourself and ask it out loud. Don't bother with the little question chat window that's part of this GoToWebinar. My name is Rod O'Connor. I'm a product specialist here at E1 Solutions, and today we're going to be talking about integrating E1 Solutions and your Microsoft Power Platform. Excuse me. With the rise of Business Central, with the rise of cloud products in general, and more importantly, with all of the cool stuff the Power Platform can do, we do get a lot of questions about where does E1 fit in, where does the Power Platform help, what is the best solution for building integrations. So we wanted to go through this webinar with you just to kind of talk to some of that. Okay, so our talking points for today. First, we're going to talk about what we mean by integration. Integration is kind of a catch-all word, and we want to go through what exactly we're talking about when we talk about integration. Next, we're going to go through the components of what the Power Platform is, what all's in there. Next, we're going to go to E1's offerings, and then we'll take a look at your overall solution building tool belt. Okay. I do have questions. You have to add questions to the agenda, but like I said earlier, if you guys have questions as we go through, I'm a pretty informal presenter, so please just unmute yourself and ask your questions as we go along. All right. So first and foremost, we have to talk about what exactly do we mean by integrations. Okay, so I've been working in this industry for, gosh, close to 20 years. So not a ton, not a long time, but some time. And in that time, I've seen us go from basically best of breed modules where everybody would buy an application that does a particular function, and then they would integrate that usually with some really complex coding projects, or in worst case scenarios, a lot of manual intervention. So a lot of dual entry. Hospitals used to be my favorite example. You check in at the hospital and enter in all of your, they'd ask you for your address and your name and your health card and all of that information. Then you'd go to the radiology department and they would ask you for the exact same information because they're different systems, even though they're in the same building. Okay, from there we went to ERP type solutions. They included many, many modules, so a lot of functionality crammed into one system. And then there was a wide variety of pre-integrated add-on solutions that kind of grew up around those ERPs. From there we went to a hybrid where people were starting to buy ERP and ISVs, and then they would still go with external solutions for best of breed functionality. And then the integrations at that point were starting to become low code or no code. Sometimes there was some complex code depending kind of who your developer was and what your needs were. But that was kind of the best of all worlds, I guess. So more recently, we've gone to online solutions with best of breed single function applications. So it's not even just I have an online solution that manages my projects. It's just I have an online solution that manages just my timesheets, right? And to that, I have to add my projects. I have to add my employees. I have to pull out my time through various reports. Okay, so over the years, integration has really become almost like a buzzword. It's kind of like BI. It means so many things, and depending on who you're talking to, you're going to get a different answer on what does integration mean. Okay, so let's take a look at 4 types of integration that we see as kind of our 4 broad strokes categories of integration. Okay, first one is system extension. Okay, and this is where we want to change the way a piece of software works. So maybe it's got its own business rules and we want to change those business rules, or you need to store some data and there's no fields for that data in the system. Okay, or you're adding a whole new business function to that system. Okay, when we think about how the user interacts with this type of integration, it's really designed to enable user interaction. So it helps the users interact with your process. Okay, next would be process automation. This is where we take non-value add steps where having a user's finger involved in the process doesn't add a whole lot of value at the end of the day. So we want to automate those, have a robot do it. Uh, it may include moving or transforming data or even creating data based on logical rules. And again, if you think of it in terms of the user, process automation is designed to replace user interaction. Okay, so where a user used to have to manually enter that customer into a second system, excuse me, now we want process automation to copy that customer into all the systems where it has to go. Okay. Third type of integration that we deal with quite a bit is data migration. So primarily this happens when you're implementing a new system and you need to pull data from an old one and bring it into a new one. Okay, it tends to be more of a one-off, a one-time thing. For example, when you're moving from GP to Business Central or from QuickBooks to Business Central, whatever that is. So when you're first implementing BC, this is your data, your transfer data in. Okay, and this is, again, thinking in terms of the user, is designed to recreate what the users have already done. Okay, lastly is data sharing, and I got to come up with a better name for that column. It must have been late at night when I created this slide, but this is where we simply want to display data that was created or maintained in a different system. One of my favorite examples of this is the CRM people care very much, sorry, the salespeople who work in CRM care very much about whether or not an invoice has been paid by their customer, and they really just need to see that it has or has not been paid. Okay, we do like to say that data sharing should be done in real time, and this is designed to communicate user interaction. So a user recorded a cash payment in the ERP, I need to notify my salespeople that that payment has been received. So those are kind of our 4 types of integration. Okay, now when you think about E1 solutions, you know, kind of our day-to-day or our bailiwick, what we're talking about is these 3 primarily. That's kind of our wheelhouse. So we deal a lot with process automation, we deal a lot with data migration, and we do a ton of data sharing. All right, so let's take a look at what the Power Platform is today. Okay. First of all, today, as of very recently, the Power Platform consists of 4 key applications. Okay, first is Power Apps. We've got Microsoft Power Automate. Some of you may remember it from such icons as Microsoft Flow. Recent addition to the Power Platform is the Power Virtual Agent, and of course, Power BI. Underpinning all of that is the common data service and a growing collection of connectors and gateways. Okay, so if we take a look at this, Microsoft's marketing act. So Microsoft's whole marketing thing is act, automate, and analyze. So under act, we've got Power Apps, which is a low-code solution where users can build an application, an app, where their users can interact with data. So you can build a phone application that interacts with a SharePoint list, or you can build a Canvas application that has a whole lot of functionality that can read from and write to the common data service, which can share data amongst many, many, many solutions. Okay. In the middle, we've got Automate. So Power Automate would be their workflow tool. Okay, it's a visual workflow automation tool. One example that I have done personally for this is I've got a plan for a lot of my projects, and I show those to a Teams team that I'm working on that project with. When I close a task or complete a task within my planner, it actually notifies my team automatically through a Power Automate flow. Okay, next is Power Virtual Agent, which is an automated question and answer tool. So your customers can log into your website, interact with this support bot or customer service bot, and it can do a lot of that triage for you. It's pretty neat, a little expensive for me, but it's pretty cool. Finally, down here is Analyze, and Analyze, their solution is Power BI. Okay. So let's take a quick look at how that fits into our 4 categories of integration that we talked about earlier. Okay, first we've got Power Apps is a pretty obvious system extension tool. Okay, this is where we're creating different ways for users to interact with their systems and with their data. Okay, be it on their phone or on their desktop or on their tablet, doesn't matter where, you can create a Power App to do that. Under process automation, obviously we've got Power Automate and Power Virtual Agent. These are abilities to get users out of non-value add processes. Okay. Down here on the data sharing, we've got Power Automate again, in case data needs to move around, and then Power BI. Now, Power BI is meant more for a 30,000 foot view. It's beautiful. I love Power BI. I work in it quite a bit, but it's really a graphical tool. It's meant to create those dashboards. Okay, if I needed a list of customers who, had a sale yesterday that I need to follow up with a phone call today, I'm not going to get that from Power BI. Okay, but if I need to see what were my total sales and how do they break out by product or by region or by whatever, Power BI is the king. Okay. We don't see Power Platform as a data migration tool today. Between pricing and licensing, and even just the tool itself, doesn't really lend itself super well to traditional data migration. I know there are people who have tried to use it in that way, but it's not really what Power Automate is built for. Doesn't seem to be what the design is for. Okay, so where does E1 fit into all of that? When we're talking E1, we've got two core products that kind of fit this integration mantra that we're talking about, okay, especially in the BC space. So we've got Smart Connect and we've got PopDuck, which we're going to take a quick tour of just for a couple seconds, a couple slides each. All right, the first one is Smart Connect. Handle complex integration without code. Basically, what we can do with Smart Connect is move data around. Okay, so it is our process automation tool. It does come in two flavors. So you can see on our screen right now, we're showing you smartconnect.com, which is our cloud product, and Smart Connect on-premise, which is our on-premise version. Both of those work with cloud-based products. But if you have an entirely cloud-based environment, so if you're on Business Central, for example, and all of your other systems you're interacting with are going to be in the cloud, it makes sense for you to use our smartconnect.com product, okay? No infrastructure. Smart Connect can be summed up in this infographic right here, okay? These are kind of the 4 layers of Smart Connect's integration strategy, if you will. The first layer is our data sources, okay? And you can see here we've got a bunch of data sources. You've got the Business Central icon up there in the top left, but we have a number of standard connectors, including Salesforce and Dynamics 365 CE or Sales Professional or whatever it is you want to call it this week. We've even got GP connectors. But what I want to show you is some of the non-standard stuff. So this guy here, Web Services, and this guy here, ODBC. So web services, if you have a REST API for any of your online services, and many, many, many of them out there have a good REST API, we can actually interact with that, okay? Which means you can read from and write to pretty much any online data source, okay? Not just Business Central. Where Smart Connect does shine over Power Automate is in how it can deal with complex JSON. So when we are dealing with REST, it is simpler to set up. There's no Azure functions that need to be created. Okay, so those are our data sources. You might notice our data sources and destinations are pretty much the same graphic. What we like to say is you should be able to draw a line from any data source down to any data destination and back up again. Okay. In the middle, we've got triggers. So we can trigger based on real-time events, change-only events. We can have users manually execute maps either from Smart Connect itself or from Excel. We can also have scheduled maps, okay? Or you can call them externally. We do have a web service as well that can be called from tools like Power Automate. Okay. Transformations. So transformations gives you the ability to convert your data on the way in. No two systems have the same data. So even the same field doesn't necessarily match from one system to the next. As I work with more and more APIs out there on the internet, I'm learning just how many date formats there are in the world. And it's a lot, more than I ever thought it would happen. So with Transform, we've got the ability to create calculations or do entity lookups. So when you're interfacing with CRM and you need to know what the GUID is for the account you're dealing with, we can give you that lookup. Okay, we've got rolling columns and date calculations, lots of stuff that you can do with your data while you're moving it from one spot to another. Okay, next up in this table is PopDuck. PopDuck is an online reporting tool, so it's a cloud-based tool, and it can read data from anywhere. Okay, so you can take your data from any of your web applications, from Business Central, and you can present that data in either a single report or a collection of site by each reports. And then you can embed those reports into other systems like CRM or Business Central. So from Business Central, you can add interactive list-based reports. Okay, so this talks about kind of the 5 key features of PopDuck that we wanted to draw your attention to. The first one I just talked about, the ability to embed an actionable widget. Now, when I say actionable, we can, from CRM, a salesperson could put a customer on hold in Business Central. From Business Central, a account manager could execute an action on the CRM side. Okay, so these aren't just reports showing data, they give you the ability to interact with the data that they're showing from the system you want to work in, not the system where the data lives today. Okay, single interface reporting, literally from any system. So we've got, I'm going to show you on the next slide, we've got about 60 applications we talk to out of the box. But again, we've got a custom REST connector if you need to talk to any other APIs, and we've got a custom ODBC connector, which means you should be able to connect anything on premise. Okay, custom reporting across all those applications, you can join those together. Okay, real-time data access. So when I click on refresh, just like a refreshable Excel report, the data is as the data is right now. Okay, you can also do scheduled exception reporting. Excuse me. So with the scheduled exception reporting, for example, if my inventory is getting low, maybe on Friday mornings, I need to send a note and say, what is my stock status? But only if a certain threshold is met. Or maybe I have a user who's been logged in for too long and I need to send a notice to kick them out, stuff like that. So the exception reporting, the ability to schedule that and get it sent out is pretty cool. Okay, I mentioned before, PopDuck does have about 60 applications that we connect to out of the box, and we're always looking to add more. So if you do have suggestions, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know. But you can see a lot of the big names out there that you're used to, including, apparently I have to update this slide, but including your Business Central. Okay. So where do we see these two products fitting into the 4 integration categories we discussed earlier? So first things first, we don't lay any claim to the system extension. We're not trying to play in that ballpark. We think Power Apps does a really good job out there. Okay. Under the process automation, that's where Smart Connect fits. Okay, so process automation, I might be moving data within a system. For example, when I create a new employee record in Business Central, maybe I want to create a vendor record at the same time. I can actually have Smart Connect create that vendor so that then I can pay the employee directly. Okay. Data migration. So under data migration, we do think both tools fit. Smart Connect is the most obvious one. Smart Connect can help you move data from one spot to another. So I can pull data from my old system, I can massage it, I can clean it up, and I can push it into Business Central, ready to go for day one. Okay. PopDuck is the less obvious one, but it makes sense for transaction history. Okay, so if you think about it, it's normally really expensive and generally doesn't add any value to import process history. So I want all of my customers' invoices since the dawn of time to be available to me. Well, that's wonderful, but then you also need credit notes and shipping information and payment information, and you need to apply it all correctly just to make it all work. And by the time you get to the end, you haven't really achieved a whole lot, but you've spent a whole lot of money. With PopDuck, we can actually merge the data from your old system with the data from your new system to give you a comprehensive history for those customers. Okay, so you can have one report that includes everything dawn of time to now. Lastly, under data sharing, we see the same two tools, only flipped around. So do you guys remember that example I gave earlier where salespeople are in CRM all day? They need to know if this invoice has been paid or not. They don't necessarily need the payment data. They don't need to transfer data from the ERP, from Business Central into CRM. We can give them a PopDuck report that just shows all of the invoices with all of the payment applications. Okay, we can embed that into their account, their customer's account, and then they have that information at their fingertips. They don't have to phone Betty in collections. They just have that report available. Now, if they're doing that, if they do need that actual payment information, so sometimes that payment information might affect their commission. Excuse me, so commission only gets calculated if the invoice has been paid in full. In that case, we might actually want to transfer the data, which is where Smart Connect comes in, from our ERP into CRM so that that calculation can happen. All right, so this is by no stretch a pick E1 or pick Microsoft session. Okay, what we wanted to do was show you that both of those tools can work really well together as your total tool set for Business Central. Okay, so here's our overall strategy, the way we see it. Like I said earlier, system extension is 100% a Power Apps thing. Okay, on the process automation side, I see a spot for both Smart Connect and for Power Automate. Okay, Power Automate tends to be more on the workflow automation, if you will. So you can do approval workflows, for example, or you could do like I told you about earlier, where I've got an update to one Microsoft app, writing an update to another one. Okay, whereas Smart Connect would take over the more complex, you know, if I have to move a sales order over, I have to make sure the currencies exist, the items exist, the account exists, and then move that data across and make sure it meets all of the business rules. That's where that's where Smart Connect shines. Lastly is Power Virtual Agent in there. We don't have anything that speaks to that. Like I said before, I think it's a really cool up and coming technology. And it does fall into the process automation. I don't see E1 ever building anything similar. Okay. Data migration, again, we do see ourselves in that space for the same reasons I spoke about earlier. And lastly, under data sharing. Now, one question we get quite a bit is, what's the difference between PopDuck and Power BI, and why would I want one or the other or both? And I kind of touched on that throughout this presentation. So Power BI is really good at visualizing your data. Okay, so I can build, one of my favorite Power BI samples when I'm teaching Power BI is I've got this fish tank. And it's visualization of a fish tank, and there's fish swimming around, and there's seaweed and everything. And each fish represents one of my customers, and the size of the fish is how much they spent with me during the period of time that, that I have identified on my report. Very cool. It's a great visualization, but I can't see from that who bought something yesterday. Okay, PopDuck is the second part of that. Okay, PopDuck is the list-based. I have a question that has to be answered with a list of something. Okay, and that's where PopDuck fits. So we see Power BI and PopDuck working together from a data sharing perspective. In fact, we see that so much that PopDuck can actually be used as a data source for Power BI. So once I have my list of data that makes sense, if I need a pretty dashboard based on that data, I can push it through. Okay, and again, Smart Connect in that data sharing category, just in case that data has to actually flow and not just show. Okay, so basically what we're saying is, if you embrace the entire tool set, so not just E1, not just Flow, or sorry, not just Power Platform, you can actually empower you guys yourselves to build and manage fully integrated multi-platform processes. So you can go from, you know, a project to Office to Business Central to CRM to, you know, MailChimp if you really want to. Okay, you can do all that with no code or very, very little code. You can use your data from anywhere in anywhere without duplicate entry. You can move data around. These solutions can be as complex as you need them to be. Robust, repeatable, reusable, all of the keywords. Okay. Between Microsoft and us, we all write code so that you guys don't have to. Okay. So what we're trying to get across here is more and more frequently users are not limiting themselves to Microsoft, which is really where the Power Platform loves to live, is within the Microsoft family. So as your as your customers come to you and ask for stuff that you've never heard of, you know, Flow will be great for workflowing all of that stuff. But I think, you know, if you need something more robust or an API you've never heard of or worked with, that's where you start to talk to the E1 products. With that, let's go ahead and open up the microphones for questions. Or this is over here on the left is my contact information should you wish to reach out to me afterwards, if you don't want to speak up here in the call. All right. Well, with that, since there don't appear to be any questions in the queue, thank you all very much for attending today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to us chat. If you do have follow-up questions afterwards, please do feel free to reach out to me. My email and phone number are there on the left, as well as all of the other key E1 Solutions email addresses there on the right. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.